Welcome back, guys. Today we're talking about one of my favorite subjects of all time. When I was a little kid, my dad and my grandpa, all they wanted to do was cane pole fish for crappie. My grandfather had a Ranger bass boat and he spent 99% of his time cane pole crappie fishing. And back in the day, we used legit cane, like bamboo cane poles, which I really enjoy the stiffness of them. But I do enjoy the modern convenience of the adjustable size. I mean, you can tell it folds down to about a 3 to 4 foot section, and you can get these in all different lengths. This one right here is a 13 foot, which I really enjoy because it gets an extended reach on the cane pole, trying to get the bait out to where you want it. But you can get them down to 10 foot, and I'll go over the differences in the two that I have. But first I want to show you how we get them prepared. I mean, crappie season's here. We went out the other day and I didn't record it, but it was slow, but we caught some crappie, but it's only going to get better. So now's the time to get your stuff right. I'm going to show you how I do it. All right, first and foremost, let's talk about line. I'm using Berkley Trilene 17-pound extra tough. A lot of times when you're cane pole fishing, you're going to get tangled up on stumps because you're fishing around cypress knees or logs and sticks and branches. And if you want to find the crappie, you got to get your bait in there. So I use 17-pound extra tough line first and foremost. And the reason I like to use such heavy, because people are like, you don't need more than 4 pounds to catch a crappie, and you're right. But the nice thing about using the heavy duty stuff is when you get on a snag, this is stronger than your hook. And I'll show you the hooks we're using here in a little while. But basically when you get snagged, instead of losing your whole line, having to retie everything on all over again, you just hold your pole towards it and you back the boat up and you just pull and you straighten that hook out 99% of the time. And you recover the rest of your equipment. And the hooks are soft enough to where you can bend them back in place 2 or 3 times, so it's time to replace them. But you know, if you do lose your stuff, a lot of times you lose your hook first. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull out a little bit here. We're gonna get the eyelet, okay? And basically all we're gonna do is tie, you know, whatever knot you like to use for a terminal tackle on here. I use a fisherman's knot just because I grew up doing it. I'm not here to tell you that it's the strongest, but it is the quickest and easiest one for me to tie because I've done it a million times. So that's what I use for this. If I was fishing for Kobe or something different, I would not use that knot. But for crappie fishing, it's gonna work just fine. Wet or not, cinch it down, good to go. Don't bite it off. I tell you all the time, man, I wish somebody would have beat that into me when I was a kid, but you know, it was different. So I'm gonna clip this, make sure we got it tight. And then basically to make sure you get your length right, you're literally just gonna pull the sections out, make sure they're open all the way. And I'm holding the line in this hand, running it all the way down. Make sure you don't put it in the ceiling fan. Those are all things that you will learn over time doing dumb stuff like this. Don't break the tip of your rod. But basically, we're just going to pull it till it meets the bottom. And we're going to cut it a little bit short of that. Not a whole lot, maybe 2 inches short. Okay? And then we can go ahead and make this a little bit more practical. Break it back down. We just need that for length, right? All right. So now we're going to get down to the other end. And we're going to get our hook set up. And so one of the most important parts of this process is put your daggone bobber on first if you're using a slip bobber. I like the slip bobbers because I can change it. I don't like weighted bobbers, and I'll get into that here in a little while. But basically, I always buy these, and in advance, I'll take a small screwdriver before I'm out on the boat and it's windy and poke holes all the way through. Sometimes when you buy these from the store, the styrofoam in the middle isn't broken all the way, so poke something through there so that your line slides nice and easily through. And right now, we don't really care about how far on it makes it. We just want to put it on there, make sure it's on, because once you tie the hook on, you can't do that. Okay, so we got our bobber on there, simple enough. I like the slip bobbers because I can change the speed on the go real fast and real easy, right? We don't have to get real technical with crappie fishing. Simple is effective. Now, I use Aberdeen Eagle Claw size 1 brass hooks. It's a light wire for panfish. I talked about it a little while ago. I would much rather use this because I think I bought 100 of these for 10 bucks. And I probably still got 50 of them left. So, you know, I'm a firm believer if you can afford to buy in bulk, you'll save money. If you're going to be cane pole crappie fishing a lot or pan fishing a lot, buy in bulk. I think I got those on Amazon. But again, all we're going to do all I'm gonna do here is a basic fisherman's knot. Again, I'm not here to tell you it's the strongest, but we got 17-pound monofilament to catch maybe a 2 to 3 pound fish. So, in theory, this is not going to matter a whole lot. So you just get it tied on there, straighten it out, and then we're going to switch on over and put our split shot on. All right, so now we got our hook tied on. I use size 3 split shots. It'll usually take 2, and I say usually because it's going to depend on the size of the bait that you buy. Some days we go to the store and they got teeny tiny little minnows, that's all they got. And other days they're decent size, but I'll start off with 1. These are lead, guys. Don't put them in your mouth if you're buying lead. If you're buying tungsten or something else, it's a little different. But get out of the habit of using your teeth in your mouth because you don't want to ingest lead, okay? And basically you just slide it over, pinch it closed. Make sure it's nice and tight. And really that's it. So now we're set up. However, the size of your bait and the size of your bobber is going to determine how much weight you put on at the bottom, okay? If you got really small bait, you probably only need 1, but if your bobber's sitting sideways, you don't have enough weight on there, okay? I'm using 3-inch bobbers because I like to use bigger bait. You can get away with 1, 2-inch bobbers. It really don't matter. It's just personal preference. I like the bigger ones also because if it's a really bright day on the water, these are easier to see. One thing I was talking about earlier was, if your bobber's sitting sideways, it means 1 of 2 things. You don't have enough weight or you're sitting on the bottom, okay? You want to make sure that your bobber is sitting straight up and down in the water when you're fishing. And the reason I say that is because a crappie makes a very distinct, it'll drop it straight down in the water. A bass a lot of times will pick it up and will just fall over, or a catfish, something like that. If you're trying to avoid those species, then you can, kind of limit how much bycatch you're catching. But at the end of the day, if your bobber's sitting on the bottom, you're probably not fishing the right depth, first of all, because crappie typically ain't sitting on the bottom. You want it to be suspended. Now, I talked about the slip bobber. A lot of times when I start fishing where I'm at, you're looking for holes, right? You're looking for places where there's structure adjacent to a drop-off. That is the best place that you can find crappie. And if you're fishing somewhere new, I recommend you drive around really slow and you just look for significant depth changes with any kind of structure nearby. So a lot of times we're fishing anywhere from 8 feet to 20 feet of water, but we're suspending the bait at about 4 feet, right? So I'll start off with about, a 4 foot section, maybe 5 feet. And if I'm not getting bites, all I do is pull it, go a little deeper, or hold it and pull it and go a little bit more shallow, right? Constantly change your depth if you're not catching fish, okay? Because the fish are probably there if you're fishing those areas, but you got to be constantly changing your depth. Now I want to talk about, the storage. These come with these 2 little clips. You just wrap it up, which is convenient, right? You're ready to get out in the water. You put these in the rod holder. They're not all long and crazy. Like the old school cane poles, they kind of got in the way. If you're trying to really go fast up and down the river, you're constantly worried about your cane poles blowing out. I remember losing or at least losing them out of the boat, that float. But then the other thing I like to do is, once I get it, this bobber slides up and down. So I'll take my hook, I'll stick it in the top of the bobber. They got a little hole in there. And pull it tight. And now I got it nice and stored. Okay. So now I'm going to tell you the differences between the 2. This is a Shakespeare Wonder Pole that my family really likes to use. I hate it. This is a Black Widow. I bought this a long time ago. It's called a Black Widow Ready Rig. These are both 13-foot models. Okay, the first thing I want to point out is the Black Widow cane pole that I have. They sell them in different lengths and they sell them in different actions. This is a medium action and it's a 13-foot. Okay, so that's the one I'm showing you here, and I'm comparing it to what my kids like to use, which is also a 13-foot, but it's a light action. I looked online and you can get this in different actions, both of them. So all I can do is compare the 2 that I have, and I have a ton of experience with them. But I'll get into the differences right now on why I like the Black Widow for myself and why my kids like the Wonder Pole. The first reason why I like the Black Widow over the Shakespeare is if you look at these guides, let me start them off. When you're winding your line, Look how much bigger the Wonder Pole one is. I know it seems petty, but it's 6 inches bigger. So every time you wrap it around, that's a foot less. You know, it's annoying to have to wrap this up. I know it's petty. It's just something different. The other thing is the Black Widow has a thicker base to it, at least a 13 foot compared to the 13 foot, which I like. I like the nice grip on it. You know, my children, women, people like that prefer the thinner handle of the Shakespeare. So, you know, if you're fishing by yourself and you got big hands, you might like a Black Widow. If you're a lady or, you know, you got kids, then you might like a Shakespeare better. And this one's lighter. The Shakespeare is a lot lighter. My kids complain sometimes that, you know, the Black Widow is a little bit heavier. They notice it, I don't. So, again, who's fishing? Who's using this pole? So, I've got 2 of the Shakespeares, and I got one of these for myself. The other difference is the Black Widow tip is a lot firmer, which I really like, so that when I'm flipping, you know, trying to get my bait where I want it, I have a little bit more control, so it's not so flimsy. And then I also like the fact that when I go to set the hook, I have less bend in the tip, right? It's a much heavier action, so I set the hook. But again, it's all about style and preference. But now you know how I set mine up, what I use. We use live minnows. As a matter of fact, let me show you another great tool. I like to keep my bait inside of one of these. A little bit expensive again. I use this for fiddler crabs when I'm out sheepshead fishing, but it comes with this net and an air pump. Keeps all your live bait alive. If you got, you know, shrimp, or if you're fishing with minnows like we are, it's worth the investment, guys. Spend the money up front. I've used the styrofoam ones for years, but you know, your bait dies when it's hot outside. And the nice thing is I can go to the store the day before and get bait in here and, you know, keep it alive. So it's one less thing I got to do the day that I'm going fishing. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you got any questions, you know, shoot me some down in the comments. I'm happy to answer. If you got a different way of doing things you think people might enjoy sharing with us, please do. And I hope you get out on the water soon and wear some crappie out. We'll see y'all on the next one.